How's everybody doing today? Psalms 90. Lord, you have been a dwelling place in all generations, before the mountains were brought forth, or even you had formed the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting. You are God. 1,000 years in your sight are but as yesterday, when it is past, and as a watch in the night. Let the beauty of the Lord our God be upon us, and establish your work upon us. Yes, the work of your hands, establish it. There are two things I want to take from this. The first one, God or dwelling place. A lot of people talk about going to church and you got to go to church. And listen, let me say it again. How can God be your dwelling place? How? Because God is not limited to an actual venue. God is a mind state. And then finally, for 1,000 years in your sight are but as yesterday when past. It's not that 1,000 years flies quickly. That's not what that's saying. It's saying when things pass, the memories are but as yesterday. Yesterday's gone, and so are 1,000 years. They're just memories. And so a lot of times people misinterpret certain things, and it's okay. But you have to understand, think about it. You are how many years of age right now? But you can remember things from your childhood as if it was yesterday. Correct? And that is what that is saying. It is saying that the past, which is in your memories, it's still there. And so when you have the mind of God, you can abide in God. That is, do what he does. As Bruce Wayne would say in Batman Begins, it is not who I am underneath. It is what I do that matters. It's what you do, ladies and gentlemen, that matters. Let's get into what we're going to talk about today. Hashtag release the Snyder Cut. Don't forget to put that in your comments in the comment section below. I know some of you are not putting it in your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to do that when you are responding or commenting. We are supporting the Snyder Cut until it comes out. What a glorious day when it does. I really don't like the fan edits to what I see for Justice League. They just misunderstand and misinterpret the movie. And still, some people still do not understand Batman in that movie. So I just don't understand how you can do something and you don't even understand the movie you're doing. It's just one of those funny things. So what I want to show you guys is the comparisons between Man of Steel, the said villain of Man of Steel, even though, and also the said villain of Justice League. Steppenwolf and General Zod and their armies have a lot in common. First of all, both of them lost. They lost the battles that they were facing initially, where they were trying to overthrow the governance of the worlds they were in. In terms of General Zod, that was Krypton, trying to overthrow the council. In terms of Steppenwolf, he was trying to conquer Earth and terraform it into Apocalypse. All right. And what happens? They fail, and so both of them end up being banished when they fail. General Zod was banished to the Phantom Zone, and Steppenwolf was banished into exile. And here we have some photos and some information here. We see that with General Zod, they cryogenized their bodies. They put them out in ice, and then they had the bodies transported upwards. That's what you're seeing right there. These little sort of encapsulations of ice is what you're seeing here. And they're going up towards the world engine, whereas Steppenwolf was forced back to his ship by his parademons. He didn't want to go back. He did not want to retreat, but they pushed him into this ship here. So both of them are going towards the ship. And then we see the ship going up into the sky here. This is transporting General Zod. All of this is Man of Steel on the side. And here we see that Steppenwolf's ship is leaving with all the other apocalyptic ships. They're leaving the Earth And they're going back into outer space and back where they came from, wherever they came from, or they're going back to exile. And here we see the Kryptonian ship, which you see here, leaving Krypton. It goes up to this Phantom Zone chamber in space, which it just swallowed up by the Phantom Zone machine. So there are still some other comparisons. We saw that they did not stay banished. They came back from banishment. In terms of General Zod and company, because Krypton was destroyed, that machine that was keeping them in the Phantom Zone was destroyed as well. And because of that, they were able to emerge from the Phantom Zone. And then they went towards Earth, which is what you're seeing right here. With Steppenwolf, he came back from exile because of the mother boxes that called him back from exile. And so he was boomed back to Earth with his parademons via a mother box on Earth. Okay? And then when General Zod came to Earth, effectively, he wanted to convert the Earth back into Krypton. You know what I'm saying? He's trying to terraform the Earth into Krypton. Okay? And he, you see him there doing that right there. There are two machines, two world engines on the other side of the Earth, and increasing the density of the atmosphere of the Earth. And here we see Steppenwolf. When he comes down to Earth, he's trying to also convert the Earth into apocalypse, and destroy the entire Earth. But he's using the unity of mother boxes. So I thought this was just a nice comparison here. And then finally we see that the world engine is returned to the Phantom Zone. Even though General Zod never returned to the Phantom Zone, he was killed. The rest of his armies were sucked back into the Phantom Zone by colliding two Phantom drives together. And this is it in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, where Bruce Wayne is seeing it from street level, right? And here, Steppenwolf and his parademons were boomed back wherever they came from, back into exile, And that's so cool to see that they came from above, they came to Earth, and then they were sent back where they came from. And I find that very cool. It's almost, you see, I always talk about the law of reciprocity, and these movies preach that. They preach the law of reciprocity, which is saying that whatever you do, whatever action you have, it has an equal and opposite reaction. So the equal opposite reaction. So you came to Earth to conquer it, was repelled and sent back the way that you came from. And that's what's so cool about that. And I want to talk about one more meme that I did very recently, which combines DC and Marvel together, and that was seen in Krypton. Now, it's not big stealing of large chunks or even the plot of these movies that I'm about to talk about. It's just these little phrases, these little scriptings that we know actually come from these movies. I'll give you a case in point. So Krypton, for instance, borrows from Thor Ragnarok. When Adam Strange, he's running away from the guy he stole. he stole the artifact that is, supposed to contain the probe which Brainiac has. He stole it from the guy, and he's running. He hides into the tavern where basically Kem's bar. He hides underneath the bar there, and Seg and Kem see him, and they come to him and say, "What are you doing?" And he tells them to shh. And of course Kem is like, "This guy's shushing me in my own bar. Are you crazy?" And he's like, No, listen. Anybody around? And they're like, and Seg says no, and then he says, "What do you do?" And then he gets up, brushes himself, puffs out his chest, and he says, "What superheroes do." it's kind of funny. He sold the idea. It was in a funny context because he wasn't behaving like a superhero. Superheroes don't steal things and run away like little cowards. But it's funny, but still, it is what it is. And that line, that sentiment of the line, the essence of that line, was seen in Thor Ragnarok. Now, the difference in how Thor Ragnarok approached that line is important, but nonetheless, Thor was saying something very serious to begins with V. Her name is what? Valkyrie? Yeah. He said something very serious to Valkyrie. He's like, you behaving like a drunkard and stuff. You're trying to hide. I run towards the problem. I don't run away from it. And then he says, because and he throws a ball to break the window, and the ball comes back and hits him, and he falls down on the ground, which is an awkward moment, and that's the humor there. And he gets back up and he says, because that's what heroes do. So he was actually being very serious at the point in time. They decided to spoof that to kind of break it up. So it was a strategy of breaking it up to make it funny. Whereas the approach here with Adam was he actually did something that was not really very heroic. And yet he assigns it superhero status, which is very funny. But the point is, that line was pulled from Thor Ragnarok. It was pulled from Thor Ragnarok, and I thought I would share that with you guys because I thought, you know what? I want to show you guys what DC is really striving towards. Warner and DC. They're striving to get a kind of crossover between themselves and Marvel, and they're trying to pull some of the good bits from Marvel, things that they think are working in Marvel, into DC. And I'll be very specific about that scene. Thor fell on the ground, then he got up, and then he said, because that's what heroes do. If you look at the scene with Adam comes sliding in and he falls on the ground, okay? And he's hiding, but he's using it as cover. He's hiding, and then he gets up as well, and then he says, what did you do? And he says, what superheroes do, which is not really true, but it is what it is. He's trying to, you can see that Adam has a complex where I'm a big deal. And he's, since day one, he's like, I'm a big deal where I am from. So you can, he doesn't have any superpowers. He's just a guy that travels through time. But he makes a big deal about himself, okay? So that was the funny part about that. In Thor Ragnarok, they spoofed it. They broke up the seriousness with a joke in between. And then they pulled the character back up and said what he had to say, which was a serious thing. And again, both can work. I mean, audiences respond to both techniques. But the point is that this DC film, Krypton, on television, borrowed from Marvel. That's what they did. They borrowed from Marvel. They made a little twist on it, but they borrowed from Marvel. And I can tell you that Adam Strange is probably going to be the most Marvelish character there. But here's the funny thing about it. They didn't just borrow from Marvel. In that same scene, just a little bit after he shows them the device, which right now Segel is watching at, and he's kind of happy that they got it, and they need to return back to the Fortress of Solitude for it, in order to get affirmation, now Adams pushes out his hand to get a bounce from Kem, and he's like, "Hi, Bunks," or some kind of thing he said, and Kem just leaves him hanging. In fact, Kem is angry with him. And Kem is like, "What are you doing behind my bar? Get out from behind my bar, right?" Because Kem is the owner of the bar. This is big. There's a club owner guy. He's kind of big up there. Seg was working with him, so and he does not like Adam at all. He doesn't know where he comes from. He doesn't like him. And Adam is not the most trustworthy guy. You just saw him steal a drink from Kem, and Kem was like, "Hey, you're going to pay for that drink as well." Because Kem is a businessman. He don't play. And it's just funny. I thought that that moment was pretty hilarious. And it really is it's a pull-off from Justice League, where the Flash, he's... when he's talking with Cyborg, and he's like, "Man, I don't see, I don't think this is good." And then Flash says, "Look, man, look, I've seen Steppenwolf. I believe Diana's stories about him." So the Flash says, "Well, we got to stop him then." And so Cyborg says, "That's the plan." And he's like, "Yeah," and he puts out his hand to get a bounce. "That's the plan." Fist pump, I think that's what Adam Strange said. Fist bump. He puts out his hand to get a fist bump, and he says, "That's the plan." And Cyborg just watches him, and he just stays hanging there, And he's like, "Okay, no problem. Just racially charged." He mutters away. It's funny, man. So at the end of the day, what you see is humor. Now, there's different kinds of humor. For instance, the Flash isn't trying to be funny. He's actually embarrassed, right? And Cyborg is just deadpan. Cyborg isn't. He's not. This is not funny. That's called situational humor. You understand what I'm saying? Situational humor is something where the characters, they're not aware of how funny the scenario seems to be. For them, it's very serious. For you observing it, it's very hilarious. If you were in that situation, you wouldn't find it funny either. Similarly, so all of these here, and in fact, every one of these here, even including the one with Thor, which is a spoof on him, but nonetheless, it is situational humor. It is not. Some people would call it slapstick humor. It is kind of, because but it's mostly situational humor. Thor doesn't find this funny. He's trying to talk to Valkyrie and get her to understand that she should be courageous, right? And even though he gets knocked down flat, he gets back up, shakes himself off, and he continues saying what he's saying, which is funny, right? And similarly, this guy, he doesn't find himself funny at all. He thinks he's actually being heroic because he esteems himself bigger than he really is, which is why Kem does not like him, which is pretty funny in and of itself. To watch people interface off of each other is always, to me, funny as an observer, because I like to observe from a distance. Being in the situation is not funny, but definitely being outside the situation, observing it, is pretty funny, and that is situational humor. So all four of these are situational humor. I find DC uses a lot more situational humor because they want to tell a story from a character's perspective, so they don't really want to spoof the character, even though here Thor does spoof this character. I'll say why he's being spoofed. Thor, generally speaking, is not considered a clumsy character. Thor speaking is not, there are certain things you don't do to characters. Like, in Justice League, we talk about the Flash being on top of Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman, look, man, if you've ever watched any stuff, New 52, whatever, you disrespect Wonder Woman, she kicks your ass. She kicks your ass. She kicked Batman's ass once when he overstepped the line and he kissed her. That was when she was on Paradise Island. She was bathed and stuff. She was naked. He saw her, and then he went and he kissed her, and she kicked his ass. Okay? So, that's Wonder Woman. So when the Flash fell on top of Wonder Woman in her bosom, that's not something Wonder Woman just shrugs off. No. Wonder Woman kicks your ass for that. You don't get away with that. And she's super fast, too. So, and so those kinds of things. So when they spoofed Thor, like when he fell down and stuff, and I was like, come on, man, that's, don't do that to Thor. Don't do. There's certain things you just don't do to characters. That's what I try to explain to people. You have to have respect for the character. And Whedon doesn't know that. Clearly, he goes for laughs, but you have to have respect. You don't just go for laughs. It's not a comedy where you're trying to spoof a character. And in the case of this here, Thor, this is out of his character. Thor is being spoofed. You understand what I'm saying? Whereas with Adam Strange, they established from the beginning who Adam Strange was. And from the beginning, he's been doing this. You see what I'm saying? Adam Strange has always been thinking himself better. When he had the Zeta Beam with him, he was like, I invented the Zeta Beam. I called it that name. And Seg watches him like, dude, this is not the time for that, And he always, tries to boost up himself. So he's living inside of his character. He's living in character. So when the joke comes, it's like, yeah, okay, that's Adam Strange. Cool. But this is out of character. You understand what I'm saying? And that's something, what happened with Wonder Woman and the Flash was out of character. As much as it gave some people laughs, it wasn't in the character of Wonder Woman or Flash. If Flash did that to Wonder Woman, I'm telling you, man, he could get a backhand or something. He'd have collect something from her. She would have put him in check. See, not letting that ride. That's not Wonder Woman. You understand what I'm saying? And that situation would not really necessarily arise like that even, because she also has super speed. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. So, at the end of the day, you have to know, because Wonder Woman's a gladiator. She's a warrior. You know what I'm saying? So, I just wanted to say that so that I hopefully in future episodes, even when they're doing Thor, hopefully they do it right for, they're coming up with Infinity War. They're talking about, the first 20 minutes being humorous, and there's some humor. Look. Humor is cool if you keep the character and the integrity of the character. The one thing I hated about Thor Ragnarok, and the other Thor movies, Thor actually behaved a lot more like Thor. He's still not the Thor I know, but he behaved more like Thor. And I those Thor movies, I give them a pass. Ragnarok destroyed Thor. They made him into this clown. And what's funny? People were talking about the Flash, Ezra Miller Flash, as a comedian, Third Rock from the Sun comedian, and they never said nothing about Thor. You know what I'm saying? Thor's not a comedian. You see what I'm saying? Thor is not a... Now, you can put him in situations, but you got to respect him at the same time. I'm going to tell you a situation which was really funny, and it still didn't spoof Thor. Thor was Thor. That situation where he was going to see the, where they, he was going through this tunnel thing and saying, you're going to see the whatever the guy's name is, the head of the place. I can't remember what his name is. The guy that looks like a clown. And he's going towards it and saying, expect it in 3, 2, and he's like, what the hell? That's something Thor would say. Thor would be confused and be like, what the heck am I in? That's Thor. You understand what I'm saying? In other words, if you want to put Thor in a situation, you got to understand, Thor's a conqueror. Thor's an Asgardian. Thor's a god. He's not a human. He's a god. So you have to come correct because he's a powerful god. Thor don't play, with or without his hammer. He's very powerful. So you have to really put it in a context where you're confusing Thor. So if Thor was in a state of confusion and you were feeding off of that, it would be funny as hell. Because, yes, you remember when Thor came to Earth and he was learning about Earth's ways? That was funny. Yet, at the same time, that was Thor. You get what I'm saying? That's Thor. And now they say, okay, if Thor were to come to our world, what would happen? Now, he's very, very powerful. Thor is very, very powerful. He's God, man. You don't take a God and you just play around with him like a clown. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. And once you keep the integrity of a character, I'm cool with it. You start to spoof the integrity and you for jokes, for cheap laughs, you're making fun of the character. You're making fun of Ragnarok. Ragnarok's not a joke. So when they start spoofing Ragnarok, I wasn't cool with that. You understand what I'm saying? And these are the things that a lot of people don't understand. You go and you read Ragnarok in the comics, then you go and watch that disgrace of whatever that was on the screen. How can you do that, man? Do people understand how many people died in Ragnarok? Do people understand the infighting that happened in Ragnarok? You know what I'm saying? And now to get this cheap rip-off of that, you have to understand where I'm coming from. And so that's all I got to say about that. Now, the movie made money, but I'm just saying. I just had to say it. I had to say it because it just annoys me. Infinity War, now they're going for laughs again. Do not go for laughs at the expense of your characters. Why would you try and cut down your character for cheap laughs? Why would you minimize your character to remember, all of these movies are about the characters. They're about the comic book characters. Don't you want to sell comic books after? Don't you want to sell comic books? What happens when the people go, they see the movie, and then they go pick up a comic and it's something different they get? Something so much different. So that's my thing. I'm saying, do you want to sell comics, or is it that these comic book movies are just for you to make money fast, quick, and then everybody forgets about them? Because that's what's going to happen. Right? You have to keep the integrity of your characters. Tell the MCU you need to keep the integrity of your characters. And they're going to kill in Infinity War. They're going to kill Gamora. Let me stop it. I'm not going to spoil anymore. Yeah, but Gamora's going to die. Okay? She's going to die in Infinity War. Alright? There's a couple others that are going to die in Infinity War, but I'm not going to spoil it for you guys because you guys don't need to know that. But I already know the plot for Infinity War. And I'm telling you now, it ain't that. It ain't all that. It ain't the joint. And all I'm saying is, it's because these people, they didn't lay that foundation, that thematic foundation, to allow for Infinity War to be something. They're talking about the Infinity War, what do you call those things? The Infinity War stones, right? And we know what all of the stones are for and what they represent and so on. If you have read any Infinity War, Infinity Gauntlet comics at least. And the whole point behind it is, I understand what they represent and everything, okay? And I'm just saying to people that at the end of the day, it could be cool. They could go the direction and make this thing epic and cool. But it's not going to be epic. And it's not going to be cool. It's going to be a series of adventures which are incomplete. I'm just telling you guys what is going to happen on the approach, because that's how the Russo brothers do that thing. They slap things together, okay? And if they try to make adjustments now, they're just going to make it more patchy. So the movie's just going to be very, very patchy. But at the end of the day, they're going to string things together, a series of stuff, and they're going to try and slap in things here and there, and try and make you feel a certain way about certain things. And all I'm saying is, for an adult like myself, who's never really were interested in their movies. The MCU, when the MCU came to the fore, when the Avengers movie came out, I wasn't interested in it. Of course, I was doing research then and so on as well. And I've never really been interested in anything that the MCU has really been giving. The only thing I'm telling you, man, when you talk about caliber of movie, Black Panther is a wonderful movie. That is a wonderful movie, which the Russo brothers will never reach. They will never get to that kind of skill and that kind of storytelling ability. I've seen them with the Winter Soldier, and I've seen them with Captain America, Civil War. I've seen the both movies. They're not on the caliber of that kind of movie. They're not on the caliber of Captain America: The First Avenger, which is a higher standard, a higher quality of movie. Okay? They don't know how to storytell like that. So that's why I know already that this movie here is going to be a cheap ripoff of a number of different movies before, and special effects. It's going to have a story, going to have some kind of adventure going on, but it's going to be threaded with jokes and cheap shots and action. There's going to be a lot of action, and there's going to be one or two bits that's supposed to be intriguing, but at the end of the day, it's just going to be the same old that we've seen. Nothing new to the table. Nothing new to the table. They're gonna patch it and check it as they go to the end. It's not gonna be a solid, wonderful story you can watch again and again and again. Its rewatchability is gonna be zero. Once you see it once, that's it. It's kind of like a Suicide Squad movie. You watch Suicide Squad once, you got almost everything from it. You watch The Winter Soldier once, you get everything from it. You watch Captain America: The First Avenger once, you're gonna have to watch it again. I guarantee you. It's rewatchable. You're not going to get everything in the first viewing. Black Panther, you're not going to get everything in the first viewing. It's just not going to. You have to watch Black Panther again. Those movies are laden with stuff. You watch Iron Man, the very first Iron Man. You only have to watch that once. You don't have to watch it 2, 3, 4 times. There's nothing new to see after that. The story is pretty straightforward. It's got 1 or 2 gimmicks, and then it got that nice ending, which is unlike other superhero movies where he reveals himself. That's what makes it cool. Alright? And of course the introduction to the post-credit scenes. So again, I'm saying this to tell you guys, you can deal with running a high and enjoying yourself watching cheap rip-offs over and over again. A formula played over, and it's going to be formulaic. The Russo brothers don't have time to change up that movie to the movie it should be. They can try, but it's too late for that. And you take Star Wars: The Last Jedi, for instance. That's a movie you can watch a couple times because there's so many layers of meaning to that movie. That's a movie you can watch more than once, and it's well done. It's solid all the way through. All the way through. And I'm just talking about movies that are worth your time. You go into the cinema, you watch those movies, they're rich. You need to sometimes sit down, think about them a little bit, go back, watch them again. Because you're going to get more every time you review. Man of Steel was that kind of movie. People didn't appreciate it in the beginning, but now they're looking at it over and over again when they start seeing the making of the movie and all of these other things that are involved in the movie that add to the movie. You know what I'm saying? People do not understand what they're going to see. A lot of people don't know what they're going to see in the cinema. And when they do see it, they listen to the noise around them. They don't know how to enjoy a movie for what it is and see what the story is telling. And they don't know what movies are really rewatchable. A lot of people are dumb. They're stupid. They go with the wave. What everybody else thinks. And it's nothing wrong with agreeing with everybody else if you have your own opinion of something. It impacted you in a certain way, and you really have this opinion about it. I could be in the middle of a crowd, and that crowd could be raving, and they're like, yeah! But if I don't vibe with whatever they're watching at as entertainment, I'm not doing it. I have my own mind. I don't go with the pack. I don't go with the pair. I don't go with the group. So if I tell you that a movie's good, it's because I feel it's good, not everybody else. And it just so happens my view harmonizes with everybody else. And I usually have good reasons for saying why I say a movie is good or not. And I'm just telling you this because you too must become someone who thinks for themselves. Don't just be a blind follower, man. Be a leader. Lead your life. Don't have other people lead your life for you. I gotta go, guys. You guys have a great